Hello, this is my writing about text essay. In 1991, Sierra Leone, a small country in West Africa, was plunged into a horrific civil war. Ultimately, in Ishmael Bea's book, A Long Way Gone, Memoirs of a Boy Soldier, Bea supplies the reader with a first-hand account of how he lost his family while engulfed by the Civil War. Bea provides the reader with a factual, compelling narrative describing to the reader how he attempted to flee the madness of the war while constantly being pursued by rebels, dogged by starvation, and forced to witness the murder of innocent civilians. In a frantic search for safety, Bea was driven into the National Army, forcibly recruited and sent to kill, sharing in the atrocities until his rescue, rehabilitation, and restoration to society by UNICEF. Across the globe, leaders of nations have publicly denounced the use of children in war. The United Nations, through the Geneva Conventions, has made it a war crime to recruit and use children as combatants in armed conflicts between nations or civil wars. Millions of children like Bea are forced into armed conflicts worldwide, thereby committing heinous acts that by definition are war crimes. Likewise in America, children ill-equipped to cope with the loss of family, hungry, or other necessities of life are easily recruited into violent criminal gangs, thereby committing unspeakable acts of violence. Bea's book draws the parallel and makes a convincing argument for intervention, rehabilitation, and restoration of these children into society. After the initial rebel attack on his home village, Bea was unsure of what to do or where to go. The only thing Bea knew for certain was he needed to avoid the rebels. Bea writes, "Young boys were immediately recruited, and the initials RUF were carved wherever it pleased the rebels with a hot bayonet. For the boys, once branded, it was the mark of death. If caught by the army, you would be killed. Captured by militant villagers, the result would be the same. Bea tried to flee the madness of the war, but was constantly pursued by rebels and dogged by starvation. Bea was constantly searching for a safe haven, and in that endeavor was forced to witness the murder of innocent men, women, and children. Every fiber of his being told Bea this war was wrong, and he must escape it." Bea writes, "I had heard from adults that this was a revolutionary war, a liberation of people from a corrupt government. But what kind of liberation movement shoots innocent civilians, children, that little girl? There wasn't anyone to answer these questions, and my head felt heavy with the images it contained. As we walked, I became afraid of the road, the mountains in the distance, and the bushes on either side. The rebels destroyed village after village, and Bea had to get far away." Bea writes, "We had no idea where to go or even how to get to a safe place, but we were determined to find one." Like Bea, children in America living on the streets seek a safe haven and are often driven into criminal gangs. Bea was recruited into the Sierra Leone Army after reaching safety in the village of Yele. The rebels had begun assaulting the village, and the military commander began recruiting the villagers. Bea writes, "Some of you are here because they have killed your parents or your families. Others because this is a safe place to be. Well, it's not safe anymore. That is why we need strong men and boys to help us fight these guys so that we can keep this village safe." Bea was given some basic military training, an AK-47, and of course drugs. Bea writes, "The young soldier came by with a plastic bag full of some kind of tablets. They looked like capsules, but they were plain white. He handed them to each of us with a cup of water." Full of fear and amphetamines, Bea was sent into battle where he was told to kill rebels as they crossed a swamp. Bea writes, "Suddenly, as if someone was shooting them inside my brain, all the massacres I had seen since the day I was touched by the war began flashing in my head. Every time I stopped shooting to change magazines and saw my two young lifeless friends, I angrily pointed my gun into the swamp and killed more people. Fueled by drugs and rage, Bea was indoctrinated as a soldier, as a killer. Bea explains, I took turns at guarding posts around the village and smoking marijuana and sniffing brown, cocaine mixed with gunpowder, which was always spread out on the table, and of course taking more of the white capsules, as I had become addicted to them. Bea had become a war criminal, the very thing he was trying to escape as he attacked civilian villages and captured recruits. In America, violent street gangs recruit using similar tactics. The gangs offer initial safety, providing food, shelter, and a place to belong while being introduced to narcotics and violence. In the United States of America, not a day goes by where we are made aware of a violent crime committed by a juvenile. The air is filled with the cries for justice and demands for incarceration of violent juvenile offenders. In theory, the goal of the juvenile justice system in America is rehabilitation and restoration to society. Yet, in practice, thousands of children languish in detention centers across the country. Inside these prisons, children are institutionalized so they can survive the incarceration. These children become more violent as a means of survival. They emerge as more hardened criminals, and a majority of these juveniles become unrehabilitated adult criminals. Ishmael Bea was never detained, accused, or prosecuted as a war criminal. UNICEF was able to locate several groups of children fighting for both the rebels and the National Army. The children were removed from the violence, treated for their physical ailments, drug addictions, and post-traumatic stress. Bea explains, Leslie had told me that I was to be repatriated and reinstated in a normal society. After approximately 8 months of treatment, Bea was deemed safe to re-enter society and sent to live with his paternal uncle and his family. Bea was rescued from the Sierra Leone Army, rehabilitated, and reintegrated into society. The juvenile justice system in the United States must change its focus to more effective intervention, rehabilitation, and restoration to society. Many will argue that a child committing murder in the United States is no different than child soldiers committing murder in Sierra Leone Civil War, or vice versa. Many will claim both are heinous, violent crimes that demand justice and ensure swift prosecution. Some may think Ishmael Bea is a war criminal and is just as guilty, sharing in the atrocities of the Sierra Leone Civil War. Bea's memoir offers compelling evidence that child criminals, like child soldiers, should not be prosecuted and jailed for their crimes regardless of where in the world they live. Bea writes, I joined the Army really because of the loss of my family and starvation. I wanted to avenge the deaths of my family. I also had to get some food to survive, and the only way to do that was to be part of the Army. It was not easy being a soldier, but we just had to do it. I have been rehabilitated now, so don't be afraid of me. I am not a soldier anymore. I am a child. From drugs to alcohol to abuse, children are often placed in horrific situations without the maturity or moral compass to adequately cope. Child criminals and child soldiers need strong advocates to intervene on their behalf. These children need to be rescued from the environment causing their pain and suffering, treated medically and psychologically, providing safety and developing their maturity and their ability to cope. Like UNICEF, we should nurture these children and restore them to our society without fear to see what they can become. Thanks.